Okay, we're on our third week of podcast here at Beachcomber Studios. And how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm loving our studio. I think patients come by because this room used to be used for something else, and they stick their head in and they say, "Wow, this is pretty neat." I don't think many treatment centers have their own studio.
No. On the beach, as we say.
Or the beach.
Right. So this is our third episode, and we're slowly getting the kinks out. We're learning a lot throughout this, the two of us. Now, Tony's wife is a expert on all this. How come you didn't learn it from?
Because she's just got her head in it all the time. She stays up till like midnight every night doing it. As a matter of fact, she just passed 1 million views on hers. And I don't know how many subscribers she's got, but I think she's approaching 10,000.
Well, we can say we haven't gotten any yet because we haven't put it on any kind of media yet.
That's right.
So we'll blame it on that. Right. Well, we don't have 1 million. I think it's only that reason. Once we put it out there,
we're going to pass her by like that.
Anyway. I was at a board meeting. I wanted to tell you this. I'm on the head of a board for College of Nursing. Okay. So they're coming down to
certify?
No, actually first on certification. And so I've been in these things before. They asked a couple questions. They asked us question after question. And it was funny that I hate to throw them. I'm not going to say who they are, but the head of the board kept answering the question, but not answering the question. You know what that is?
Sure.
So the first person said, specifically, give us a 5-year strategy plan. And he went on and on. And he's great doing that, but it was getting obvious because by the third person said, specifically, what was your 5-year strategy? He never answered it. Yeah. So I threw one out there and they seemed to accept it. But
I think they're probably very in tune with people doing that to them.
Well, right? Gosh, yeah. It's their school. Right. And they're handling students. Students you throw the bull out there, and they want to hear what's the old line. You got to have quantitative, qualitative. Is there a third one to that?
No, quantitative and
qualitative. Yeah. Don't give us any of that baloney. Yeah. It wasn't going that well, but anyway, it was a fun experience. I got to say, nice restaurant, the Woods, nice. And so it went very well. But I'm going to be more prepared next time. I'll tell you that. So what's going on with you?
Well, on the way here this morning was really kind of neat. I got a call from a former client, and this was a client who was not easy when he was here. He was somebody who was at the kind of the far end of the spectrum as far as working with everybody, and but little by little he did the work. He became willing, and the day he left here, his mother went into hospice, and she died a week later. He used the skills that he learned at the Beachcomber and got through it, stayed sober, and is having a very productive life now, and is so happy that he came here and is so grateful for his experience here. So. He actually called me patient, and I don't get called patient very often. So that was nice to hear. It's always good to hear that first thing in the morning.
Yeah. We had a kind of interesting story. We have somebody who works here. Actually, it was a patient we had before that they were in treatment together. Mm-hmm. And it was upsetting for him to come back in and see the person he went through now working the Beachcomber having 5 years. But it was a good, he was glad, but he was sad. Uh-huh. And that's a tough thing for, I guess, someone to, bite the bullet and go back in because they might bump into someone they know like that. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, it's a kick to your self-esteem when you go back to treatment again, and especially if you see people you went through that have succeeded, that went through with you. Mm-hmm. And, unfortunately, that's part of the consequences of relapsing.
Right.
So,
and just by the way, she's a secretary, not a therapist. But it probably happens. I mean, because Beachcomber hires a lot of people that go through the Beachcomber afterwards.
Sure.
Tony's
I'm one
an
of them.
example.
Yeah.
That after a certain amount of time, they start whatever level they're at. We've had a lot of people start as techs and move all the way up to. I don't know if you didn't start as a tech, but you were volunteered.
Yeah, for a year and a half, I was an intern, basically a
but
volunteer.
You did help out for a while too before all
sure,
that. So he was a volunteer that wasn't therapeutic volunteer. So I mean, a lot of people started out just coming in and they worked themselves up to director of therapy, like you did, or opening up programs.
Sure, and, we have somebody right now who did that, who has gotten promoted a couple of times, and this is someone who's just took to the program and is working hard, working her way through school, and here she's doing well, and she's for the first time in her life, she's a productive member of society for an extended period of time.
Well, I know we have at least 15 people, at least, if not more, because we have IOP staff, but here we have a few, and IOP has a few. I'm just guessing there's probably about 15.
I think that's
at least. That went through the Beachcomber and now working here.
Yeah. And to think back that when I asked you if I could do my internship here, your answer was absolutely not. And it took me browbeating you quite a bit.
Well, we had a bad experience with one intern, and it just wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it, but I mean, a lot of programs they have interns almost do the whole program.
Interns and techs, that's the whole program.
Yeah, right. So we went back and reevaluated. Obviously, it was a good choice reevaluating. Started doing interns because we've gotten a lot from our interns, and a lot of them are going to stay and work. In fact, one of our interns is now going to take over Tony's job when he leaves and goes to Paris.
Right. And that's mid-October, and that person is, being fully immersed in everything that we do and things that she wasn't immersed in before or wasn't privy to before, but she's doing well.
Yeah, she's a sharp lady, and she's been around the field a while, but just sharp. Anyway, so we're going to take over Tony's shoes. You better know what you're doing. It's a big job, that's for sure. Because there's a lot to do there, right?
Well, there is, and I think that one advantage I had was my history with the Beachcomber, and knowing all the important players really well, and knowing how to approach them on certain subjects. And she's been here, I think, about 15 months, and she's getting there. So and she's very willing, and she's a very hard worker, and those two attributes go a long way.
Yeah, if anyone's hoping to get into this industry, I would recommend they take a part-time job, see if they like it for a little bit. It's a good way to learn, and then move your way up. I know sometimes it's not. You're not making any money,
right?
But I mean, if it's a love, you will work your way into a better paying job.
And I looked at it as I was investing in myself.
Right.
And that's really what you have to think about. If you have a passion for it, be willing to invest in yourself. It's like any other career.
Absolutely, and you should get very good at whatever the company needs you at. You have to learn some computer skills. They're not that difficult, but you do need to learn them. But take a tech course. There's intervention, but
when you think about it, Joe, when you started 40 years ago, you along the way you did every single job. You were the cook, you were the driver, you were the overnight person, and that's what it takes to really know the whole business, to do every job. I think you've done every single job except be a therapist, right?
Right.
So.
Well, it does. One of the things that tells you what each job entails, and I would say I've done all those jobs, so I know what that entails. But working around the therapist, and in fact, I used to sit in staffing because I was around the patients more than the therapists were at one point in time because I was closing up, cooking breakfast, and on other jobs. So I would see things, so they would have me sit in there and plus I was learning.
Yeah, and you, while you're learning, you're seeing the patients in moments where their guard is down.
Yeah.
And so that they're willing to say things that they might not say to their therapist because they see them as an authority figure more than the cook or the driver or
Well, they were going to tell on something that's going on around. They would more likely tell me than they would tell the therapist, unless they got out of group. But generally speaking, they would in the morning or something, or playing chess, or that playing spades even.
Sure.
It would pop out, sometimes accidentally too. Yeah. But yeah, it's a rewarding field, but it would take you have to invest in yourself, invest in some time, and learn every aspect of the job you can, every aspect.
And I'm thinking about it as we're talking. I can think of at least 3 people that have been through here as clients, gone back to school, mm-hmm. and have either owned treatment centers themselves, owned large private practices, or in one case I can think of, the person is the clinical director at one of the biggest detox facilities that there is.
Right.
And so, they do go on to do great things. And the person who is a recovering addict or alcoholic statistically has a higher IQ than the person walking down the street. The studies that show 12-point higher IQ, and we're hardworking people. We don't do anything to a lower level. We do everything to the max, and sometimes to our detriment. But when it comes to our careers and our moving forward after recovery, it often helps us to do well.
I was on the phone the other day, one of those things coming about IQ.
Uh-huh.
I took that test.
Did you?
Yeah, the phone shut down afterwards. I don't know what that meant, but I wasn't going to investigate because I could have been so smart, it was overwhelmed, I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the best one I could come up with.
We'll go with that
one. So we were talking about getting into the field, just giving some ideas so people want to know what therapists can make anywhere between, they're licensed.
If they're licensed, they're probably going to be making, just as only a therapist, not as a clinical director, in the $52,000 to $65,000 range.
Yeah, and sometimes a little bit more, but
right.
Depending on experience.
And depending on experience, depending on the treatment center itself. But it's, people don't become therapists for the money. I remember when I made that decision, I was actually here as a patient when I started to think about it. And I thought, well, I can make a living, and I can make a living and helping people at the same time. And, that's pretty rewarding. And that's what's driven me for the last 20 years. So.
Yeah. Some of the other jobs are just more startup jobs, but you can make a living on some of them as well, because I know people do.
Yeah.
But people that take the jobs also do it because they want to help and get people back on recovery. That's for sure. So our FATC meeting is September 22nd, and we're asking. We had a crisis, and I had a call from David Lipton, and he was concerned about communication between treatment centers and the halfway houses. They had he knew of a patient that OD'd, and what happened was that they were not told about the patient relapsing, and they discharged him for whatever reason. So if the communication from the treatment center to the halfway house was, this guy's a relapse, they might have put him in treatment somewhere and maybe not OD'd. So from talking to Whitney Lehman, who is a director of FAR, and she may be coming to speak and see if we can get the halfway houses and treatment centers to be more communicative.
Sure.
And also, they're going to talk about FAR and referrals.
Sure.
I think we're at that now. If you have a referral come from a treatment center, it has to be a FAR approved, what we're understanding. Is that correct?
That's correct. And actually, there's a pretty hefty fine. I believe it's $1,000 a day if you refer someone to a non-FAR accredited house. And but that communication, it's so important for the treatment center and the halfway house to communicate, but not just when the client's leaving treatment and going into the halfway house. Even beyond that, when there's issues, the communication helps to fill the gaps
Right.
that might help that client have a better outcome.
Well, in that case, they wouldn't have discharged him. See, what they were worried about, there was a COVID crisis, so they asked a couple of the patients who could go home or whatever. And this one was supposedly doing okay, so they agreed to let him go home. And without that information, they
Sure.
did that. And that's normally the problem in all businesses, all treatment centers. Even here, one of our biggest problems, and I'm sure everyone probably not surprised by this, is communication.
Sure.
And it's difficult. You have 3 shifts. We're 24 hours. And trying to get the third shift, talk to the second shift and first shift, and trying to get the communication and what communication is important, what isn't. It's not easy because you don't want to get 1,000 emails a day on each,
Right.
all total of your patients. So you got to decide which is important, what isn't.
And also the kind of communication is evolving, right? Because when I first started at the Beachcomber, we had, if you remember, we had that big thick book.
Logbook.
Yeah, and we used to write a paragraph on kind of what was going on in the community for the next people that were coming in.
The funny thing about that is it started like this, and by the end it was like this.
Sure.
Because the pages were bright.
Yeah.
SpongeBob there.
But now we can do it through through text messages. And WhatsApp, exactly.
Is that the one we use?
Yeah. And we're able to alert people that are coming in to changes or new people coming in or people leaving. And so that helps quite a bit. Sometimes I think those get a little bit too verbose and
absolutely.
and they get into sending them to people that don't really need to know the information that's being sent. And that can muddy the water. So you have to really manage that well too.
Everyone has had that happen. You're on a feed of 10 people, 11 people.
Yeah.
And someone sends something out and everybody answers when they don't need to.
Right.
And you go, you don't need the answer, whatever it is.
Right.
And it happens even with our thing, people will answer.
Sure.
Yeah. I know they want to say, a good idea, great idea. Well, that's nice, but when you get 15 people or 10 doing that, beep, 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 beep.
Right.
Annoying. Yeah. Anyway, so what else is going on for you?
For me, it's just planning moving to Paris, and
oh wow,
that's happening now in a little over 2 months. And last week we went for our visa application, and that was
experience. I bet.
It was an experience. I don't know if you want me to go into it, but it was. We thought it was going to be harrowing. It was much worse than we thought. KJ had set up an account for us to go apply, and she made an appointment. And it turns out that every single person who's going needs an appointment, not like an appointment for a husband and wife. And when we got there, they wouldn't let me in, and because of COVID, they were only letting the absolute necessary people in. And luckily, I'm married to someone who comes very prepared to these things, and also is very pleasant to work with. And so, as she was talking to the person, I'm waiting downstairs, thinking, I'm not going to get approved because I'm not going to get to see anybody. The woman starts joking with KJ about, so you're moving to Paris and leaving your husband in Florida. And one thing led to another, and an hour and 10 minutes later, they let me in.
Wow.
And it all went fine, and we're just waiting for the final approval.
Was this in Miami, too?
Yeah.
Everything had right official, I guess. You couldn't do that locally?
Well, you can't do it locally, kind of almost no matter where you are in the country. There are people flying from New York to Miami to have the appointment.
Really?
Because in New York, apparently New York, Philadelphia, Washington, no appointments for the next 3 months because they're so booked. So
now they're using up our appointments. Huh?
Exactly. So this young lady and her mother, she was just getting a student visa. She flew from New Jersey just for the appointment.
Wow. I would have even thought of that. That's amazing what people think of.
Yeah.
And they take a vacation out of it probably
too,
right?
Absolutely.
Go cruising.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's kind of where we're at. I'm.
Are you working on your French?
We just bought a course and not only learning French, but French culture and habits and things like that.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, because
More important than probably the language, the habits of what is do's and don'ts.
yes, and
Yeah.
for example, they don't like wearing athletic wear in public.
Uh-huh.
Where to us here, that's that's
That's
normal stuff,
That's everyday wear.
right? You got people go to court dressed like
That's
that.
right.
So I have a friend who wore a tracksuit to his mother's funeral. I mean, but in France, it's a little bit more formal than that, and so
And there's hand signals you have to be careful of. That may mean something here that
sure,
is benign, but there is like fighting words.
yeah.
Word
And
signs.
one of the things we're learning is if you don't speak French, don't try to. That it's insulting.
Irritating, yeah.
So we're looking forward to it and just taking one step at a time, a little bit every day.
Oh, that's good. So I know you're looking forward for that trip.
Yeah, we're going to San Francisco in a couple of weeks to see our sons in graduate school, and we're going to see them one last time before we head out, and hopefully not one last time forever. But San Francisco is a long way from Paris.
Well, I'm going to New York. That's where my dentist is.
Oh yeah, that's
So
right.
I do travel to New York City for my dental visits, and yeah, it's a long ways, but I get to see my Frank Sinatra impersonator, which I love to go to at the Carnegie Hall.
You love New York, though, right?
Yeah,
you
I like
do it
New
a lot.
York,
You
yeah.
go like once
Yeah.
a quarter, it seems.
Yeah, I go once a quarter. I like going in there and go to the park, Central Park. I don't know, I go to the mountains and Central Park.
Sure.
a little opposites there, but
Do you remember the wedding we went to in Central Park
I
where the
do.
priest had a heart attack?
I do. That was we will say, but that was a beautiful
It was a beautiful wedding.
area. But yes, yeah.
And
And then they bust us in the
to a restaurant.
and we got stuck in traffic.
The food was spectacular.
That was.
But I don't know if you've ever been to a wedding where the priest has a heart attack, but we were in Central Park and in an area, a public area, waiting for the priest, and he was late, and in the distance we see a taxi pull over with a priest get out, and he has a heart attack.
But they're still married, and it's been
8 or 9 years.
that's all. But still married.
Yeah.
That's you always think that's
Yeah.
Kanahara or whatever the
Yeah.
Jewish version of that one is.
Right.
But you throw some Jewish words in there, like I know what I'm talking about. I usually don't do the enunciation properly.
Right.
So I think we're good for today. We're going to try to go live streaming and practice on that one. We do a 10-minute spurts at a time. We don't want to overwhelm our public.
There you go.
So we're looking forward to doing that. That's the end.
Thank you.